welcome. This is our very first episode of the Practice Forward podcast. My name is Owen Bush. I'll be your host. I'm joined today with Heather McManus on Practice Forward. We're looking at architects, engineers, and a lot of folks adjacent to them, how they're working with technology, how they're adopting technology. It's a very rapidly transforming industry. There's a lot of shiny objects and a lot of new ways of doing things. And we're talking to a lot of folks who are either breaking the mold, disrupting things, changing things, or actually just kind of staying put, because architecture is one of the oldest professions known to man. And there's a lot of ways to do it. So there's a lot of new ways to do it. And so today, Heather is joining us. She's got some new ways of working in interior design and sourcing materials. Heather is the founder of the Designers Collaborative, which is a platform that we'll be talking about that is helping designers and architects to source materials and furniture and other things like that. Anyway, Heather, welcome so much. It's great to see you today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk about, so you started as an interior designer. I mean, you know, for me, I believe, you know, I'm on my 6th company and now I'm a serial entrepreneur, and every company I've started in some ways came out of the last company I was doing, or some of the pain points I was facing in my, you know, I think what happens with entrepreneurs is we face these pain points and then we try to solve them, and then that winds up leading to a better business and a better idea.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah,
so
that's completely how the Designers Collaborative came about.
So you began, well, I don't know if you began that way, but your previous career or your previous company was in interior design. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I've been in the field for a while. I worked for other people, and then I went out on my own. I had my own business, Artistry Interiors, for many years. And I hit a wall when it came to making profits, and the internet was just starting out and killing anything you could make on the products that you were selling to the client, because they could, on the touch of their little palmy cell phone in their hand, look up what you were trying to source for them. So the protected to the trade is gone. When I hear the words to the trade, it just like sends the hairs on the back of my neck up. Like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. That line is gone. There used to be a line, it no longer exists. So I invented the second business to help the first business be profitable. Because I saw the need. I had it myself, and I knew many other designers were in the same boat.
Right.
Yeah.
So interesting. So, I mean, we hear about, you know, technology just disrupting people's livelihoods all the time. And it just seems like nobody's safe. Every year or two, there's some massive new disruption that we all have to adapt to.
Yeah.
It's nice to see someone who's actually using this not to disrupt people, but to actually, enhance, give power back to designers and give community back to designers. So the Designers Collaborative has grown to over 200 members.
Over 500.
500, is that right?
500, yes.
Okay.
I would love to get to 700. I think that's a really good number for us. So right now we're still growing. And
how many manufacturers are you connected with now?
Over 300. And
wow.
Like the kitchen and bath sector has just exploded this year. Many of the kitchen and bath designers are joining and offering up their kitchen cabinetry, all the hardware, the plumbing fixtures, appliances. And so that's become like a whole second tier for us.
Amazing. So, well, let's back up a little bit. How, if I were a designer or an architect, how would this help me, how would this impact my profitability and project execution?
It will at least double your profit in all of the products that you put into the house. I'm not, and sometimes it's flooring too, but you know, when you go to furnish a room and, you know, you're meeting the client's needs, the ability to have 300 vendors at your fingertips at the very best price, which is usually called stocking dealer, it's very difficult for a solar entrepreneur or even like a mid-level firm, because the buy-in is usually $10,000 for just one company. And you have to do a minimum of $20,000 to $50,000 a year to keep that price point. So even as a small firm, that's really difficult, because the next year you might have super different types of clients, super different types of, you know, their aesthetic could be very different from that one company that you were able to open, which is what happened to me. I opened the company. It was an upholstery company. I thought it had a good range, but then I had the next client wants super clean, modern, and they just don't do that. Not enough for her taste. So now I have to open another one, and that's hard to do. If you only need 2 items from that company, you're not going to get it at the best price. You're going to get, you know, because each company has different tiers. Four Hands has 7 price tiers. That's one of the very popular, well-known furniture companies. 7 different price tiers. That's a lot. And with the more you buy, the better your price gets. A lot of companies might have 2 or 3. So you might start off with like a designer discount where you're getting a little bit off. And then there's, you know, wholesale where you're going to get like 50% off. But stocking dealer is closer to 70% off. And that's what you really have to have that to be able to compete with the internet prices that are out there for everyone to see. And also the stores. So when I work with a client and I say, you know, I'm going to be able to source these things for you, and you're not going to pay more than what you're going to see online or in a store, and you're getting all of my expertise and my vision, and we're going to put it all together for you, then that puts them at ease, because they're not going to shop you right off the bat too. They're not thinking, well, she probably, you know, let me make sure I'm not getting screwed over here. And I understand that mentality, because, you know, a lot of designers who don't understand price tiers and they present a price to the client, they're blindsided by the client reaction when they get the how come Wayfair has it for blah blah blah. It's and then then the trust is gone, and that's huge in any project. You need the client's trust. They need to know that you have their best interests at heart, that you know what you're doing. Otherwise, the problems come up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some assumptions you think about just the word value and how people talk about value in design? And what are some of those assumptions you think should be torn down or replaced?
So I actually love the word value, because it's not cheap or expensive. Cheap or expensive doesn't mean anything, because there's no context to it. You know, it doesn't matter if we're talking about, you know, a frying pan that was $20 at Walmart, that, you know, the first time you use it bends and does, you know, half the food's getting cooked right, and you know, versus pay $100 for the lifetime warranty one, and it cooks beautifully, and you don't have to buy a new one every year. So value to me puts context on things. It talks about like the materials that you're using to make the item, whatever it is, you know, where it's made, how it's made, you know, is it toxic to you? That's, you know, that's become a whole topic now that we're aware of, you know, the off-gassing of sofas and fabrics and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, all of that I think is what people should talk about. I get like frustrated when people say, I need a cheap whatever, or that's expensive. Expensive compared to what? It's expensive to you maybe because you're not at that price point. But it's, to me, that's not expensive because the materials that were made, where it was made from, the fact that it has inlay, the fact that, you know, they just don't know enough about the product to know that it's actually a value. And
Sure.
yeah, so expensive and cheap, those are frustrating words.
Yeah. Right. Well, so I've heard you say that interior design is not broken, but the business of it often is. What was the friction point that made you start reimagining how designers can work together?
We didn't have a seat at the table. And it's been like this for, I mean, going back, like I know older designers who would go to High Point Furniture Market in the 70s, and there would be a sign up in a showroom that said, "Designers not welcome here."
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's pretty extreme. So now we make up over 60% of High Point Furniture Market, whereas it used to be retailers. So, you know, if there's ever a time for a designer to have a seat at the table, why not now? But
Right.
you know, if I'm not given a seat at the table, I'm gonna make my own table, and I'm gonna make sure that there's enough chairs to invite
Yeah.
everybody who wants to sit down and actually make profits. So yeah, so the
Sure.
system's a little bit broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some key lessons you would like to impart to emerging designers that are in today's complex industry landscape?
Oh boy, that's a big one. So just keep educating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Keep taking classes, keep reading books. And especially with technology now, like we're, you know, I started out in the 90s. It was like, actually it was 2000 when I was really in the industry. So that's 25 years of changes in an industry. And I've had to relearn so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Even the same software that you've been using for years will suddenly do an update, and you've got to totally relearn how to use the same thing. So I would say, you know, you have to be the constant learner.
Yeah.
And you really should like focus on profit. A lot of designers start out because they're passionate about it and it's an art form and you're being creative and you don't want to stifle your creativity with the worrying about profit. And that will kill any passion you had when you cannot pay your bills. So it's just, I see it a lot. I see like, well, I'll worry about that later. No, worry about that now, please, because your passion won't sustain you. You need profits and you need to know how to be profitable. And yeah, I probably the best book they could read is Profit First.
Yeah.
You know,
I use it myself.
yeah, like that was like a whoa. I wish I knew that in the beginning before I started struggling so
It
hard.
flipped my company upside down, literally.
Totally. Like
Yeah.
everybody needs to read that.
We became profitable like the same month that we started
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. Huge
Um,
aha moment. Yep.
but yeah, no, it does seem that the majority of the people who come into this field from a design standpoint, they need to be completely retrained because they're coming into it with a somewhat of a starving artist mentality.
Yes.
And
It's like the business side in colleges just isn't taught. It's
yeah,
all this, you know, happy rainbows. And it's,
sure.
you know, I wish they had more conversations that dealt with the profitability and the
Yeah, well,
business
there's a lot of
side.
emphasis on, design, and I would imagine a lot of the folks who are teaching these classes have been somewhat shielded from um, having to actually, be an entrepreneur. As far as I know, you're still an active designer, or you may be in the future again. And so I can imagine you're always thinking about very small, intricate details that most people don't even notice as a
Mm,
designer would. But then you're also thinking about major macro decisions of the macro strategy of systems change for designers in general. So how do you move between these micro decisions and this big macro strategy all the time?
So my brain hurts. But details are what make everything beautiful. You
Yeah.
know, the tiny little bit of trim that's going to be on the bottom of a sofa, and then the fact that you're going to pair it with a self welt or a cord, or don't welt anything, or like all of those details matter so much.
Yeah.
Actually, it's one of those things where I probably will maybe someday go back to doing interior design for clients. But a year ago, I made the conscious decision to stop doing that. And I
Sure.
focused so much of my attention on the Designers Collaborative, which is a full-time job. Like I was doing a full-time job and a part-time job, you know, the entrepreneurial spirit. It's going to take you where it's going to take you. So just changing those little thoughts all the time was exhausting. So I stopped doing interior design, focusing on this. I'm going to do more educating and more speaking because that's sort of like the evolution of where things are taking me. But
Yeah.
it's too hard to do it all. And those details matter. You got to be paying attention to so many little details and keeping it all track when you're an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I have to kind of slap myself in the face every day.
Yes, I have my paper list.
Just keep it simple and keep doing what I do. And
Yeah. I've got like my little Post-it notes around. I have my pen and paper, like little, you know, to-do lists. And then I've got the technology that helps me get it done. And yeah, so all of that kind of just keep you going, keep you doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing.
you know, in my office, I just stare at a whiteboard all day that has all my monthly behavioral goals listed out.
Oh, that's
And
good.
just reminds me like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do, you know, 3 more of these this month or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
And I think if I wasn't looking at that every day, I would just get completely derailed.
Yeah.
But
You'd be spending all your time just returning email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you know, I mean, speaking of shiny objects and things that are distracting, you know, so there are so many new technology platforms, capabilities with the internet and AI. And tell me a little bit about what kinds of technologies you guys are embracing to really bring us such an amazing offering with Designers Collaborative.
So with my team, I use Asana so that it's not 5,000 emails every day. It's in one place, and you can keep track of a job and like back and forth with, you know, where it evolves to. Like, you know, okay, now she said this and then this is happening. And then so you can go back into the history and see it, you know, timeline wise, kind of like an email, but it's a different system. And so, you know, I have a very small team, but you need to be able to make sure that this person's got that job and that person's, you know, so it's not on my plate. So Asana has been working great for us. We use Keep is a software that is able to do all of our invoicing for us because we're a membership base. You join for the year, and the day of your anniversary that you joined is the next year when your invoice would be due. So that's a software that's keeping track of all of that for us. So it's not like on a bookkeeper to do it. It's done with automation, and it can. Yeah, it's a good one. There's many of them out there. It could also do like newsletter, email stuff for you automated. So there's a welcome packet when people join, because our systems may be a little different from what they're used to. It teaches them along the way without it being like a total dump, because a lot of people feel like they were thrown in the deep end of a pool. So at least we're giving them floaties so you can, you know, you can learn to swim. What else? I tend to do a lot of our graphics. I'm wanting to step more back out of that kind of stuff and hire people for it. But so I wind up using Photoshop and Illustrator. I'll throw out there with Canva, and for social media, I'm using LiDAR, which is one that, you know, you 1 day a week, you can schedule a whole week of stuff, and then it's done.
Okay.
So there's definitely tools out there that are making things easier, but our main system is Google. It's
Mhm.
amazing what they do for free. So we use a shared Google Drive for all of the vendors and everything that every member has to go in and find things. So what's great is 24/7, you go in and you want to see the price of whatever, Assad Amanda sofa, and you can look it up for you because the price list is there. Or we're
Right.
sharing the login for that website, and you can go in and see what the price is that way. So
Sure.
so Google has now started with some AI stuff that I have only just started to explore. So it's exciting to see where that's going to lead. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be such a different landscape in like 5 years.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? I mean, where do you think this is going to take? Let's just talk about interior designers.
Yeah.
Where do you think the disruptions 5 years from now are going to? What kind of new trends in interior design do you think are going to come out of that?
Well, I mean, there's good and bad with all new technology. So with AI, it may take away some jobs of people that do 3D modeling for, rooms, because
Mhm.
it's become so much easier that somebody without a design background can kind of play around with something and get something very close to what they would want to see. I feel like designers provide a service that, like, it's such a good service that gets in the head of the client, and they have to know so much about them to make the space be the best for them. It's not a cookie cutter thing. Like, I don't know that, you got 5 kids and 3 dogs, and so you're going to need this fabric and it should flow like this because of how, the traffic pattern comes. Your kid's soccer is important, and that's like a huge part of your life. So let's make a locker for them where all of the stuff is every time. So when it's ready to go, Billy can just pull it and get in the car instead of it being find it all over the house.
Yeah.
That's the kind of problem solving that designers do for their
Mhm.
clients. And I don't think any AI is going to be able to do that part for
Sure.
clients.
Yeah.
But the
Well, it seems
3D,
like in some ways I mean it's right in the name of your company. You're creating a collaborative platform for designers, right?
yeah,
Um, so collaboration is a big word in our field, but it's often just stops at the mood board. And even more and more people are so much more kind of siloed and in their own worlds.
true.
So what is real operational collaboration in your world, and how does that change the economics of design?
So the collaboration is bigger than I thought it was going to be when
Mhm.
we first started out. I thought this is a way for all of us to make more money on the products, but the community part has been just as big as the profit that you wind up making. We have a Facebook group that is worth its price alone, because there's I don't know how many questions a day that are asked in there and answered by 500 other designers that know more than just you.
Yeah.
You're not in that silo. You're not alone in this. So, you don't have to know everything, because you've got a whole bunch of us that can answer those questions. And so it's been really powerful. And when a question gets asked too often in a group, I then make a digital tool for them.
Hmm.
When I see that a lot of people are saying, who makes this Pottery Barn sofa? Because they don't actually make their own furniture. So who are they sourcing it from? Let's figure
Right.
that out. So
Yeah.
we now have a new tool on the drive for them that's called Who Really Makes It.
Oh,
So
wow.
when you want to see, like, who makes that restoration hardware piece, who makes the lighting for them, who makes this upholstery, who's doing their case goods, we have a resource for that. So when questions get asked, you know, repeatedly, it seems to me that that's a hole that we can fill. So I'll create something like that, and it's just a little time and focus. And that's another actually place where I'm using the group, because I don't know all those things, but 500 people probably do. So
Sure.
that's how that list came about. It was by asking the group, anybody know who? And yeah, I do. And then I do, and I do, and I do. And then you have a whole list.
Now, does it feel like there's like a kind of a push and pull between the designers and also the 300 manufacturers?
Well, I mean, the industry, that's where it comes into like that, my opinion of it being a little broken. The way that they're set up, the vendors, is that a sales rep has a territory.
Mhm.
And, so when you color outside those lines, they don't like that.
Uh-huh.
And that's not true for everybody. There are some companies who like are obviously my favorite because they're inclusive. They like the concept. They're on board from the owner of the company all the way down to the sales reps, and everybody understands that this is a win-win for everyone. And then there are some companies that are like, this is terrible. So, all right, fine, we're not dealing with you. And there are even designers in the field who feel like, well, if I had to fight so hard for so many years, why do you get to make something easy for everyone? Which is, that's not what I'm about. I'm about collaboration. I'm about helping people. Why make
Sure.
someone else struggle?
Right. Well, hey, we have a couple minutes left. I definitely wanted to ask you, I feel like both of our companies were a bit of a canary in the coal mine in that we really feel the impact of the economy and world events and things very immediately.
Yeah.
And so I know that with all of these trade wars and tariffs that are happening, it's clear that it's been very disruptive to our industry in a lot of ways. I think you feel it immediately, and maybe some of our viewers aren't going to be feeling it for another couple months because they may be busy on other projects or whatever. But I was hoping you might be able to help us like anticipate what's coming down the pipeline and how people are dealing with it and what people are doing to kind of get around all this stuff.
Yeah. My first answer was going to be sarcastic. Chocolate and wine. So no, seriously. It's not looking good right now, but hopefully I don't know what will happen. And it was the, High Point Market just happened in April. And so I'm fresh off of that. And that was the topic that we asked all of the vendors so that we could find out what are we anticipating here? Because there are definitely tariffs on products already. Anything coming from China already. In 1 week, one of my vendors sent 2 different price lists because they had an update twice in 1 week because of fabric grades on
Mhm.
the upholstery. Like, hey, we
Mhm.
thought it was going to be this. Oh, we're wrong. Here's the new list of what it's going to be. So there's a
Yeah.
whole lot of that. So if you're immersed in pricing a job right now, it is a nightmare. You have to have in your contract very clearly, like particular wording saying, if there is a price increase, you are subject to pay this, because it's not the role of the interior designer or the architect to pay someone else's taxes, which is what a tariff is. So that's not your responsibility. The client is going to bear the brunt of this, and the industry will be impacted because people are scared right now. So things are slow,
Yeah.
and lead times are going to be a nightmare. It takes 12 different vendors to make one sofa. So even if that manufacturer is made in America, not every single one of those products are. The chemicals that make up foam that goes into a sofa are not made in the US. They're made
Right.
overseas. So even if the cushion itself is made here, the chemical product is
Yes.
purchased from somewhere else. And what a lot of the vendors told me at High Point was they just put a hold on all of their purchases from China and a
Mm.
bunch of other countries that might get impacted.
Mhm.
So yeah, bracing for tough times and the unknown, and hoping that things get better, that, common sense starts to come into play, because this just seems like a terrible, terrible idea. I do not think that is going to bring the jobs back to the United States the way, you know,
Yes.
that's the marketing that we're hearing. That's the
Yeah.
marketing part of it. That's the idea. I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to happen. Not for years, and not without a lot of heartache.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've kind of charted your career around resiliency and helping small business owners foster resiliency in their companies.
Yeah.
And so I guess I would just ask, you know, what would you recommend? I mean, I'll just say for me and my company, when we were faced with the pandemic, and then when we were faced with inflation under Biden, rising interest rates, there was always, if you were resilient enough, there was always a clear path to finding something in the market that was moving, right? So you could pivot into, you know, infrastructure, or, you know, education, or wherever the, you know, whatever the recession proof areas were. And then, you know,
Absolutely.
with the pandemic, there were winners and losers. There were certain sectors that just exploded because they were being taxed so heavily. And with my company, I was always able to pivot and try to find the new sectors or subsectors that were really active. But what's happening now, it's very hard really to know anything. I mean, and as you said, it changes on a day-to-day basis. So
Yeah. It's very hard to plan when you don't know what's going to happen. It's I mean, I've been telling the designers, because every week on Fridays I do a Facebook Live for them of like industry news and what's happening with a group or with everything in the world. And I've been telling them for months, you got to have a reserve fund. You got to have the rainy day checking account where you're just putting money away so that you can withstand at minimum of 3 months, but hopefully 6 months worth of your bills should things really dry up and get hard. And then, like you said, you know, there are going to be places where you can pivot. So, you know, for designers during the pandemic, it was like suddenly everyone was doing these long distance design packages where you didn't have to be in the house. You know, you could design remotely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that right now, buying American is going to be the focus. I think, you know, the smaller companies that are focused in China, and a lot of people moved in 2019 when the tariff started with China to Vietnam. But now Vietnam is on the list of one of the countries that could get hit by like massive, not as high as China, but really that's still a big increase in the price of goods. And those people know how to do inlay. Whereas Americans, we haven't done that for, I don't know how many years, hundreds of years. Like we would have to totally relearn how to do things to bring it back here. So if you focus on the American made, then, you know, that's kind of like interior design can do that. You can say, all right, but I mean, it's also not foolproof because of that problem where it is a global economy. And if it's, you know, if it's one sofa that's made in America, but 12 different companies make up the vendors for that piece, you know, you can limit damage.
Yeah.
For, you know, sourcing with an American made company.
Well, it's going to be
a wild ride.
A lot of people reinventing their companies, and
Yeah.
if any of you are listening, I wish you luck.
Yes. Yeah.
With the very rapidly changing landscape.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a great time to work together to, you know, guess what I heard? I heard this company's going out of business, so don't give them, you know, money. Or, hey, I've been feeling low about what's going on. Oh, well, don't worry, because I'm feeling low about that too. Like if you have community, you can at least help each other and, you know, try, you know, that's something that could come out of this. Maybe more people start to help each other and work together.
Well, you know, when you're not working as much, you have a lot more time to hang out and talk. So
True.
it's been really great talking to you today, Heather.
Thank you.
It's really great to meet you. I hope we can continue this conversation in the years to come. And best of luck with everything you're doing. It's very inspiring. It's great to see people, you know, giving people small businesses leverage and a leg up. And I love to see these kind of distributed networks come together that really allow people to actually be able to put their own unique design and signature on things. So much of things are becoming so predictable. So in terms of design, so it's great to see someone who's really empowering smaller visionary companies.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Cheers.